Today, Jesus is promising rewards for those who give up their loved ones and possessions for His sake and the gospel. He says, "No one has given up home, brothers or sisters, mother or father, children or property for me and for the gospel who will not receive in this present age 100 times more." But of course, giving up something or someone is not just for priests and religious who renounce family and personal property to imitate Christ more closely. We all can, however, learn to sacrifice something to witness Christ's presence in the world. And what does God ask us to give up? For the apostles, it meant their hovels, their rickety boats, and some old fishermen's nets, and their whole world. Doing this presupposes much incredible generosity, untiring effort, and sacrifices. And for us, what God wants us to give up is maybe leave behind our family and friends if we move to a new place. Maybe God wants us to give up some of our friends because they infect us with worldly things. Our time and money can be sacrificed if we want to address the needs around us. Maybe we have to give up something we treasure for those who need it more than us. And giving up is hard because we fear that God won't replace what we lose. Yet, He wants us to give us even more. In relation to this giving up, I read a personal story of a church leader and at the same time, a mother. She learned this giving up way back in the 1980s when she was a leader of a prayer group and the editor of the monthly charismatic newsletter of her diocese. And God wanted her to give up both these ministries to better care for her family, her pregnancy, and her young children. This didn't make sense because no one in the prayer group was willing to lead, and no one in the newsletter knew how to organize and edit it. And after weeks of refusing to believe that God did want her to quit, she noticed that the problems created by her not quitting were getting bigger and bigger. And in the end, she decided to trust God's advice and she quit. And as a result, that free time got her evolved into writing articles for Christian magazines, which of course had a bigger audience than her diocesan newsletter. And just as she expected, the prayer group fell apart. But something new and better grew up in its place. And God sent a new editor to the newsletter who did a better job than she did. And in this regard, maybe we must trust Jesus as we accept the changes He makes in our Christian lives. And this trust in Him always rewards us with new friends, new apostolate, and new blessings that surpass what we had before we gave up. He replaces it with 100 times better, and He is more generous than you and I. I remember that wherever the first place where I was assigned, particularly in a difficult mission situation, someone or some family or a circle of friends supported me in good times and in bad. And God's providence and goodness have always been there for me, without which I could have hardly survived. And only by God's grace that I managed to do His work. When you serve God, you get rewarded. It comes in ways you don't expect. In forms that you don't notice, and sometimes in ways you least imagine. And when you serve God, you always win. That's guaranteed. Amen.